The sky above Earth was calm, deceptively serene. Clouds drifted lazily over a stretch of untouched wilderness. Birds circled in lazy patterns, and for the most part, the planet went about its usual rhythms. But the balance of that day was about to fracture. Far above the treetops, almost invisible against the cobalt blue, a flicker of movement caught the attention of one vigilant Saiyan. Goku, mid-morning training in the valley, paused mid-punch. His eyes narrowed, sensing an energy signature unlike anything he had felt before. It was cold, precise, artificial, and yet alive. Goku frowned, tilting his head. That's weird. I've never felt anything like this, he muttered to himself, brushing it off with a casual shrug. He returned to his training, shaking his head, assuming it was probably some minor fluctuation or a strange energy anomaly. His instincts were sharp, but curiosity often followed confidence. A few kilometers away, Vegeta hovered silently above a craggy ridge, his arms crossed. His usual scowl deepened as he perceived the same energy. Unlike Goku, Vegeta's approach was suspicion, not dismissal. What is that? He murmured, voice low and tense. There was no warmth, no irregularity in the signature. It was too consistent, too calculated. Every instinct screamed that this was no ordinary threat. And then, without warning, the air above the forest shimmered. A subtle distortion began to ripple across the sky, like heat rising from a desert road. Birds scattered, their shrill cries piercing the still morning. The ground trembled lightly, unnoticed by the casual observer, but enough for the nearby wildlife to bolt. Goku's gaze shot upward. Vegeta's eyes narrowed to slits, aura flickering faintly as a protective barrier of energy began to form around him instinctively. The portal opened with a low, resonating hum, faint yet oppressive, like metal grinding on metal. At first it was just a crack in reality, a thin tear in the air above the remote forest. But then, with a flash of steel and the flicker of crimson optics, the figure emerged. Metal Sonic. His form was sleek, aerodynamic, impossibly precise. The red glow of his single eye cut through the misty morning light, scanning, analyzing. Every movement was deliberate, measured, mechanical. He landed lightly atop a moss-covered boulder, his metallic feet leaving no dent. No disruption to the forest floor, yet the energy around him screamed of contained power. His gaze swept the horizon, flickering in microseconds, processing every tree, every animal, every hidden valley. There was no emotion, no fear, no excitement, no malice, just cold calculation. Goku took a cautious step back, his fingers twitching as he prepared to sense the energy more thoroughly. What is that? He whispered, a mix of awe and curiosity in his tone. Even he could feel the difference. This wasn't a Saiyan or a warrior from another planet. This was something else, something synthetic. Yet its presence carried weight, as if it belonged in this world but didn't. Vegeta, hovering nearby, could barely contain his irritation. Kakarot, don't tell me you're going to stare at a machine while it sizes us up, he growled. Something's off. That thing. It's not just another weakling. It's calculating, learning, adapting. From Metal Sonic's perspective, the two Saiyans were mere data points. He didn't move aggressively, yet he didn't hesitate. Each observation, each calculation, was stored, cross-referenced, and analyzed. His optics adjusted automatically, scanning for energy output, combat potential, and, most critically, behavioral unpredictability. The forest was unnervingly quiet, save for the soft hum of Metal Sonic's systems. Even the wind seemed to pause, reluctant to disturb the moment. The tension was palpable. Goku and Vegeta shared a brief glance. Unspoken agreement passed between them. This wasn't a simple threat. This was intelligence, wrapped in steel and speed. Suddenly, Metal Sonic shifted slightly, a single red eye narrowing as if focusing on something unseen. The faint whirring of his internal mechanisms punctuated the stillness, a reminder that this was a creature built for one purpose: perfection in combat. And the realization hit both Saiyans simultaneously. This encounter was only beginning. Before either could act, Metal Sonic's gaze swept toward the horizon once more. Something beyond this forest, beyond Earth itself, tugged at his sensors. A signal, faint but unmistakable. And as the light of his optics flared ever so slightly, the forest floor quivered under a tension neither Goku nor Vegeta fully understood yet. The question hung in the air, heavy and electric. What had arrived from beyond, and why was it studying them so carefully? The answer was out there, somewhere in the calculations of a mechanical mind. And one thing was certain: this was not a battle that would be won by instinct alone. With a faint, almost imperceptible whir, Metal Sonic took a single, precise step forward, and the world held its breath. The calm of early afternoon shattered quietly, insidiously, far from the eyes of the world's most powerful defenders. In small towns scattered across the countryside, lights flickered in homes as if possessed. Appliances turned on and off in erratic patterns, and the faintest metallic whine lingered in the air. Animals bolted in panic. Dogs barked uncontrollably, birds scattered in frantic flocks, and even the normally placid deer vanished into the undergrowth. Something was moving, calculating, and everywhere yet nowhere at once. Bulma, deep in Capsule Socorp, noticed the first anomaly on her monitors. Her fingers danced across holographic screens, scanning energy readings that twisted and shimmered in ways she had never encountered. This isn't just any power surge, she muttered under her breath, her brow furrowed. It's organized, intelligent, and it's moving too fast for any natural explanation. She zoomed in on one of the towns, watching as streetlights flickered violently and cars seemed to swerve on their own. Her mind raced, connecting threads that shouldn't exist. An AY, but nothing like this has ever been on Earth, or anywhere else. It's learning, she whispered, realizing that this was not simply a rogue machine or a malfunctioning experiment. This was something built to assess, adapt, and evolve. Meanwhile, Goku and Vegeta were still training in the valley. Goku's curiosity had brought him closer to the unusual readings, though he remained unconcerned by the minor disturbances on Earth's surface. Vegeta, however, was different. His eyes narrowed as he detected the faint tremor in the planet's energy. Kakarot, something's wrong. This isn't a normal energy spike. There's a pattern here, Vegeta said, his voice taut with caution. He hovered higher, scanning the horizon with the intensity of a predator. Far to the north, Piccolo's senses stirred uncomfortably. He had spent years attuned to threats, powerful, malevolent energy signatures. But this was different. The feeling was cold, precise, and unfeeling, yet brimming with potential for destruction. It wasn't chaos or rage. It was intention, and it unnerved him. "What the hell is that?" he murmured, his sharp gaze sweeping the sky from his elevated perch. The mechanical disturbances continued. In one town, the electricity grid failed entirely. Transformers exploded in short, controlled bursts, sparking flames that licked the edges of the streets. Metal Sonic had arrived, not to announce himself, but to test the limits of his surroundings. Every movement, every subtle vibration of the environment was data to be processed. Nothing escaped notice. Back at Capsule Corp, Bulma traced the energy back to its source, her mind racing with calculations and hypotheses. It's scanning, measuring the world, and not just Earth, it's analyzing living beings. Everything that moves, everything that breathes, everything that fights. It's like it's cataloging us, she realized aloud. Her voice carried a mix of awe and fear. Even she, with her unmatched intellect, felt the shadow of uncertainty creep in. Elsewhere, in the forests where Metal Sonic had first landed, the machine's optics glowed softly, scanning and calculating. A deer froze mid-step, sensing the presence of something unnatural. But Metal Sonic's gaze was elsewhere, focused, absorbing patterns of movement and energy with ruthless precision. This wasn't random wandering. It was reconnaissance, tactical assessment. Even the Z fighters began to feel it more keenly. Goku squinted, cocking his head, sensing the subtle changes in the world around him. Vegeta's aura flared with irritation as he felt the artificial calculations brushing against his mind. Piccolo tensed, muscles coiled, knowing instinctively that something unprecedented was unfolding. Then came the first revelation. On one of Bulma's screens, a schematic appeared, a fleeting glimpse of metallic anatomy and design unlike anything seen on Earth. It was humanoid, yet faster, stronger, and built with adaptive algorithms capable of learning mid-conflict. Her breath caught. "This isn't just a machine," she whispered. This is a weapon, and it's intelligent." The sky above remained clear, the forest calm from a distance, and yet the invisible presence of Metal Sonic spread across the land. The world remained oblivious. Civilians went about their day, unaware of the precise, analytical eye watching from the shadows, recording, predicting, waiting. As the Z fighters converged on Capsule Corp, drawn by the irregular energy readings, Bulma turned to them, urgency in her tone. "Whatever this is, it's not just strong, it's smart, and it's already analyzing us." The forest trembled faintly once more. Animals bolted again, the metallic hum rising in pitch. Even Piccolo's sharp senses could not ignore the weight of what it was approaching. The world's peace hung by a thread, fragile and fleeting. And somewhere, beyond the visible horizon, a single red eye scanned the earth, unblinking, unfeeling, and calculating. The question lingered in the minds of every Z-fighter present. How do you fight something that learns faster than you can react? A storm of steel and intelligence was quietly forming, and no one yet knew how close it already was. The valley lay quiet once more, though the stillness carried an undercurrent of unease. The disturbance from earlier had passed, or at least that was what the world believed. Yet, high above the treetops, hidden from casual eyes, a silent observer remained. Metal Sonic perched on a jagged cliff, his sleek metallic frame nearly blending into the shadowed rock. The sunlight reflected off his armor, glinting like steel fragments, and the crimson glow of his eye cut through the natural light, scanning, analyzing, and storing. Everything moved with purpose. Every flicker of Goku's energy, every ripple in Vegeta's aura, every subtle adjustment in Piccolo's stance. None of it escaped Metal Sonic's precise calculations. He wasn't attacking. Not yet. He didn't need to. Observation was its own strategy. Every motion, every reaction, every choice was data. And this data would inform the machine's next move, its tactics far more efficient than any purely instinctive combatant. Nearby, Gohan was training. The young Saiyan moved through forms with intensity, practicing techniques that blended both speed and precision. His energy flared as he executed a sequence of rapid strikes, sending shockwaves across the valley. But something felt off. A subtle sensation pricked at his instincts, like the hairs on his neck standing on end. He paused mid-kick, scanning the surrounding area with his sharp amber eyes. I can feel it, Gohan murmured to himself, unease threading through his voice. He could sense a presence, not hostile yet, but calculating, intelligent, and unlike anything he had encountered. It wasn't a natural energy, not alien in the usual sense either. It was synthetic, and it was observing him. The red glow flashed briefly in the sky, a faint pulse that Gohan instinctively ducked beneath, heart pounding. Vegeta, nearby, noticed his son's sudden hesitation. "What's wrong with you, brat?" Vegeta demanded, voice laced with frustration. His sharp eyes followed Gohan's gaze and caught the subtle shimmer in the distant tree line, almost imperceptible to the casual observer. Vegeta's frown deepened. This is no ordinary threat. Something's out there, and it's smart. Piccolo, meditating atop a rocky spire a few kilometers away, felt the same disturbance ripple through his senses. He tensed, muscles coiled, cloak fluttering as his awareness extended beyond the immediate battlefield. "I don't like this," he muttered, voice low. "There's intelligence behind this energy. Cold, precise. No Saiyan, no human could think like that." From his vantage point, Metal Sonic adjusted his posture, tilting his head slightly. Sensors whirred softly, recording and cross-referencing every fluctuation in energy output, every micro-movement in the valley below. He noted the timing of Gohan's strikes, the burst of Goku's aura, the crackling intensity in Vegeta's ki. He cataloged their reactions, predicting patterns, measuring reflexes. This wasn't curiosity. It was preparation. Every observation increased efficiency, creating an advantage before a single blow had been exchanged. The forest surrounding the valley remained oblivious to the tension above. Birds cautiously circled the cliffs, occasionally startled by small flares of energy from Gohan's training. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the faint hum of something mechanical. The valley was a stage set for confrontation, though no one yet knew the depth of the performance. Suddenly, Gohan sensed something more, a subtle shift in the atmosphere, a faint vibration that spoke of intention rather than mere presence. His eyes narrowed. "It's not just watching. It's learning," he said quietly. The weight of that realization pressed down on him, mixing curiosity with a twinge of fear. Vegeta's aura flared as he finally focused on the anomaly. "Show yourself," he shouted, the command more instinct than reason. There was no response, only a flicker of red in the distance, like the pulse of a single, unblinking eye. The calm precision unnerved him. This wasn't chaotic like a normal enemy attack. It was methodical, calculating, almost clinical. Metal Sonic shifted again, a subtle movement that betrayed no intent yet conveyed immense capability. One step closer to the edge, sensors whirring softly. The mechanical whine of his internal systems was almost inaudible, but to trained ears like Piccolo's, it was unmistakable. Every decision, every calculation, every potential countermeasure was being processed in real time. The machine was not merely observing, it was anticipating. The sun dipped lower, shadows lengthening across the valley, and the red flash appeared once more, this time more pronounced. Gohan tensed, Vegeta's fists clenched, and Piccolo's eyes narrowed in concentration. All three sensed the same truth. Whatever was watching them was far beyond ordinary comprehension. And then, the quietest of realizations struck. This observer was not limited by fatigue, hesitation, or pride. It would learn from every action they took, every mistake, every moment of hesitation. The question lingered, heavy and unspoken. How do you fight something that learns faster than you can react, that anticipates instinct, and adapts before you even strike? The red glow pulsed faintly one last time, then disappeared and into the shadows. The valley remained calm, almost serene, but the tension was palpable. Every Z fighter present felt it in their bones. They were no longer merely defending Earth. They were being studied, assessed, and tested by an intelligence that had only one directive: perfection in combat. Metal Sonic remained hidden, silent, observing, waiting. And the valley knew it was only a matter of time before that watchful gaze turned from observation to action. The quiet of the early afternoon shattered in an instant, replaced by the shrill cries of alarm and the hum of destructive energy. In a remote city several miles from the forested valleys, streetlights flickered and windows shattered under the subtle force of an unseen presence. Cars skidded across empty streets as a single figure streaked through the skyline, unnervingly precise and impossibly fast. Metal Sonic had arrived, and he was testing the limits of the world he had infiltrated. From a distance, Goku sensed the sudden surge of energy and froze mid-air, eyes narrowing. The readings were unlike anything he had felt before, structured, controlled, and constantly adapting. "Something's happening," he muttered, voice taut with alertness. His instincts screamed that this was more than a mere attack. It was an evaluation, a test of combat potential. Vegeta hovered nearby, aura flaring, jaw clenched. It's time to see what this machine is capable of," he said, voice low and dangerous. The Prince of Saiyans didn't rush into battle blindly, but he felt a familiar thrill of challenge at the thought of facing an opponent designed for perfection. Metal Sonic descended toward the city streets, moving with fluid grace. The machines in the surrounding infrastructure seemed to react to his presence, energy lines sparking, drones and minor automated defenses faltering. It wasn't chaos. It was controlled. Every action, every minor disruption had a purpose. The city became both battlefield and laboratory. As Goku approached, his orange eye flaring in the wind, he called out, "Hey, over here!" His aura exploded outward in a soft ripple, signaling both warning and intent. Metal Sonic's red optics swept over him, calculating trajectories and energy output in milliseconds. Without hesitation, the machine propelled itself forward, moving faster than the eye could track, a blur of steel against concrete and sky. Goku braced himself, launching a Kamehameha before the figure had fully approached. The blue energy surged outward in a brilliant stream, but Metal Sonic anticipated it. In a heartbeat, he twisted, dodging with mechanical precision, redirecting the blast just enough to graze nearby buildings without sustaining harm. The efficiency was flawless, a perfect reflection of adaptive combat intelligence. Vegeta's eyes widened slightly, though his scowl remained fixed. "It adapts," he muttered. "A machine that learns mid-fight." The words were laced with both admiration and irritation. He activated his aura fully, flaring blue and gold as he streaked toward Metal Sonic with a series of rapid strikes, energy crackling at his fists. The city became a blur of motion, concrete and sparks. Metal Sonic responded to each attack with flawless precision, dodging, countering, and even predicting minor variations in Vegeta's technique. Each punch that missed was a lesson absorbed, each strike calculated for future encounters. Goku realized, with a sinking feeling, that conventional attacks, powerful though they were, barely registered on this opponent. This isn't just strong, Goku muttered under his breath, hovering midair. It's smart. Too smart. His voice carried a mixture of awe and concern. Even he, accustomed to powerful enemies who relied on raw strength, recognized that Metal Sonic's ability to anticipate, adapt, and counter instantly made him a unique challenge. Metal Sonic's optics flared as he assessed both Saiyans simultaneously, calculating the most efficient path to neutralize threats without unnecessary effort. Every movement was economical, precise, and deadly. He launched forward, speed and momentum synchronized to exploit the tiniest lapse in timing. The clash was not only physical, but mental, a battle of prediction and reaction as much as raw power. Goku shifted tactics, realizing that offense alone wouldn't suffice. He moved with more unpredictability, feints and sudden bursts of energy designed to test Metal Sonic's learning threshold. Vegeta's strikes became sharper, more strategic, honed to force the machine into reactive choices. Yet each adaptation Metal Sonic made was instantaneous, almost preemptive, as if he could see beyond the present moment. The turning point came when Goku attempted an instant Kamehameha, a move designed to obliterate a target with raw speed. Metal Sonic's single red eye, focused, and, with a fluid, almost imperceptible motion, he diverted the energy midstream, sending a shockwave that rocked the city streets around them. Concrete cracked, glass shattered, and even the ground itself groaned under the redirected force. Goku's jaw tightened. His first real strike had been countered with surgical precision. The realization hit him like a thunderbolt. This was a machine not designed to fail. And if it could counter one of his strongest attacks, there was no telling what it might do next. Vegeta's pride flared alongside his irritation. Humph, this isn't a mere machine. It's a weapon, a calculation, and I will crush it. His fists blazed with blue energy as he surged forward, but even he knew the challenge would not be easy. Metal Sonic paused for a fraction of a second, optics narrowing, whirring mechanisms subtly recalibrating. The battle was far from over, yet already the Z-Fighters understood a harsh truth. Speed, strength, and raw power alone would not be enough. This opponent learned, adapted, anticipated. And as the crimson glow lingered in the afternoon sky, the question hung in the air, heavier than any energy wave. How do you fight an enemy that evolves faster than you can react? The city trembled. The first clash had begun, but it was only the opening act of a conflict that would challenge everything the Z-Fighters believed about combat, intelligence, and the nature of power itself. The city lay in ruins, smoke curling from shattered buildings, glass glittering like shards of ice across the streets. The hum of displaced energy still lingered in the air, a faint reminder that the confrontation had not been random, but purposeful. Goku hovered above the wreckage, arms crossed loosely as he scanned the horizon. His aura flickered with curiosity, the corners of his mouth tilted upward in a faint smile. That was impressive, he admitted softly, voice carrying over the wind-whipped streets. It didn't just fight. It learned, Every move we made, it adapted instantly. I've never felt anything like it. Vegeta, however, was less contemplative. His fists were clenched so tightly that his knuckles were white, and his aura flared with barely contained frustration. Hmm, this isn't a simple machine, he growled, voice echoing with irritation. I underestimated it. Thought it would be easy to crush, and yet it vanished. Without warning, without fighting to the last breath. The absence of the enemy left an eerie stillness. Metal Sonic's retreat wasn't chaotic. It was deliberate, calculated. One moment, the mechanical menace had been darting across the battlefield, precise and deadly, and the next, he was gone, leaving only the faint shimmer of a high-speed ascent into the clouds. His red optics flickered once as he vanished from sight, a single glowing pulse that hinted at awareness, strategy, and an understanding of when to engage or withdraw. Goku's gaze followed the disappearing form, eyes glinting with interest. It's smart. It knows when to fight and when to pull back, he said, thoughtful. It's not reckless like most enemies we've faced. That's actually exciting. Vegeta's frustration grew, his scowl deepening. Exciting? You call a machine designed to destroy everything it studies exciting? We barely scratched its surface. It adapted to our strongest attacks mid-fight, Goku. Mid-fight! His voice was sharp, reverberating with pride, wounded by the unexpected challenge. Gohan, nearby, had descended from his training session, landing softly on a broken rooftop. His expression was a mixture of awe and concern. It's unlike anything I've ever sensed before. Even Piccolo was uneasy, he said, glancing at his father and Vegeta. It's not just fast or strong. It thinks. It predicts. We could have kept fighting forever, and it would have learned everything we could do. Piccolo, perched on a scorched spire at the edge of the city, folded his arms over his chest, eyes narrowed. It's intelligent combat, not just power. That's the difference, he muttered, voice low and measured. Every Z fighter is reactive by instinct. This thing anticipates. It analyzes, and it won't stop until it has everything it needs. The aftermath of the clash became a silent lesson. Buildings lay in splinters, streets gouged by shockwaves, and the faint hum of residual energy lingered like a heartbeat. Even the air seemed tense, carrying the unspoken understanding that Metal Sonic's retreat was not defeat. It was preparation. Every move, every calculation, every step had a purpose. And now the machine was gathering data, assessing the battlefield, and planning its next strike. Vegeta slammed his fist into the pavement, sending a ripple through the cracked concrete. So it retreats. Fine. But mark my words. The next time it shows itself, I will crush it. I will not be outsmarted by a machine. Goku's expression softened as he looked toward the clouds where Metal Sonic had vanished. I don't know, Vegeta. That's what makes it interesting. We'll get to see how smart it really is. I want to see what it does next, he said, his tone carrying both curiosity and cautious anticipation. From above, a faint red glow lingered in the sky, an almost imperceptible reminder that the observer was still watching. The hum of high-speed flight receded into the atmosphere, leaving no trace of its trajectory. Yet the weight of its presence remained, a shadow over the city, over the Z-fighters, over the balance of power on Earth. Bulma, arriving via capsule, surveyed the destruction with a mix of alarm and analysis. It's not just destructive, it's strategic. That retreat wasn't fear, it was preparation. Whoever, or whatever, that thing is, it's planning ahead. And if it's intelligent enough to retreat now, imagine what it could do next. Her words hung heavy in the air, carrying the grim certainty that this battle was only a fragment of a larger, looming conflict. The Z fighters regrouped, their expressions a blend of frustration, concern, and intrigue. Vegeta's pride burned, Goku's curiosity flared, and even Gohan and Piccolo felt the weight of something unprecedented. The opponent they faced was not merely powerful, it was evolving, and the stakes were now clear. This was a battle that would require more than strength alone. Metal Sonic's retreat left a lingering question, palpable in the minds of everyone present. Why attack and then vanish? What was the larger strategy behind such precision, such intelligence, such calculated restraint? As the clouds shifted and the sun dipped toward the horizon, a single red pulse blinked faintly against the fading light, hinting that the machine's watchful eye remained unseen, unyielding, and inexorably calculating. The first clash had ended, but the real game was only beginning. The aftermath of Metal Sonic's initial assault rippled far beyond the ruined city streets. Across the globe, television networks scrambled to cover reports of unexplained mechanical phenomena. Flickering power grids, mysterious bursts of energy, and unexplained destruction filled news screens. Panic spread quickly among civilians, fear mounting with every fragmented report. People evacuated cities, abandoned vehicles littered highways, and the hum of uncertainty resonated in the air like a storm waiting to strike. At the highest levels of the world government, officials convened emergency sessions. The question on everyone's mind, was this an alien threat, or had Earth itself birthed a weapon capable of such destruction? Ministers debated frantically, each theory more speculative than the last. If it's not extraterrestrial, then someone on Earth has developed a technology beyond anything we've ever seen, one official exclaimed, slamming a hand into the polished conference table. But if it's alien, another muttered, voice tight with fear, we may have no idea what we're truly facing. Meanwhile, deep inside Capsule Corp, Bulma and Dr. Briefs huddled over a bank of monitors, displaying the city's devastation and residual energy signatures. Bulma's fingers flew across holographic keyboards as her mind raced. This isn't like anything we've ever encountered before, she said, voice tight with urgency. It's not just a machine. It's intelligent, adaptive, and whatever it is, it can learn faster than we can predict. Dr. Briefs leaned back in his chair, stroking his beard. It's a perfect fusion of artificial intelligence and combat engineering, he mused. Notice the precision? Every attack was calculated, every retreat planned. It's like it's studying us, studying Earth. If we can understand its limitations, maybe we can find a vulnerability. Bulma's eyes narrowed as she analyzed the energy patterns. Vulnerabilities might exist, she said, but we'll have to think like it does to find them. It learns mid-battle. Conventional defenses won't work. We have to predict its predictions. As the two scientists debated strategies and potential countermeasures, Goku and Vegeta continued to patrol the sky near the city, still unsettled by the encounter. Goku, ever curious, tilted his head as he reflected on Metal Sonic's retreat. It didn't just vanish because it was afraid, he said, voice thoughtful. It's planning something bigger, something we haven't seen yet. Vegeta snorted, scowling. Planning or calculating weaknesses to exploit Kakarot. Either way, I don't like it. Not one bit. That machine doesn't fight like a living being. It fights like perfection incarnate. Far above Earth, unnoticed by anyone below, a hidden figure watched. Cloaked in shadow, their silhouette barely discernible against the darkened skies, they observed Metal Sonic's flight and the scattered responses of the Z fighters. A faint pulse of energy signaled communication, a silent thread connecting observer and machine. It's performing exactly as predicted, the figure murmured, voice low and deliberate. The Earth's defenders are reactive, and that will work in our favor. Soon, the next phase begins. Below, civilians continued to panic, their fear magnified by the unknown. Reports of strange energy spikes reached military bases worldwide. Pilots scrambled jets to investigate, but each attempt to engage was met with unpredictable interference, communications disrupted, instruments failing, and conventional weapons proving ineffective. A tense global awareness settled like a shadow over the planet. Something extraordinary had arrived, and no one yet understood its full capability. Back at Capsule Corp, Bulma's mind raced. It's like it's sending signals, or testing something, she said, eyes scanning the incoming energy data. Every movement, every attack, it's gathering information, and whoever controls it, or created it, might already know what it has learned. Goku's gaze swept across the horizon, the wind tugging at his gi as he hovered above the city. If it's learning from us, we can't just fight it blindly next time. We'll have to be smarter, faster, more unpredictable. His voice carried a mixture of excitement and caution. Vegeta's aura flared, gold and blue intertwining as he clenched his fists. We'll destroy it, Kakarot, he growled. Even if it learns, even if it predicts, we will adapt. And when it comes back, it will regret ever attacking Earth. The hidden figure above, unseen and patient, simply watched. Metal Sonic's retreat was not an end. It was preparation, a test, a study. And the red glow of the machine's optics, still faintly detectable from orbit, hinted at intelligence far beyond human comprehension. A storm of strategy, destruction, and observation was quietly gathering, and Earth's defenders had no idea how vast the game truly was. The question now lingered in every mind attuned to the anomaly. Who controls this mechanical force? And what is the larger plan that has only just begun to unfold? The answer would not be revealed easily, but it was coming. The sky above the rugged training grounds shimmered with energy as the Z fighters pushed themselves beyond familiar limits. The city's destruction from Metal Sonic's earlier assault still weighed heavily on their minds, a stark reminder that conventional power alone would not suffice. Each fighter moved with purpose, driven not just by strength, but by the urgent necessity to outthink an opponent that learned faster than they could strike. Goku hovered mid-air, his golden aura flickering as he experimented with unpredictable attack patterns. Rapid bursts of energy alternated with feints, sudden dives, and abrupt reversals. He focused on breaking the rhythm, creating openings that even a highly adaptive opponent might struggle to anticipate. If it learns from me, he muttered, I'll have to trick it. Keep it guessing. His eyes glinted with a mixture of excitement and caution. Nearby, Vegeta's training was a study in precision and intensity. Every strike was calculated for maximum impact, yet delivered at near inhuman speed. He darted through the rocky terrain, fists and feet a blur, testing sequences designed to overwhelm even the most efficient combatant. But even he paused, a rare moment of frustration crossing his features. It adapts. Faster than I expected, he growled. I can push harder. But will it be enough? The doubt lingered in his mind, buried beneath pride but unmistakable to those observing closely. Gohan, focused yet tense, practiced under Piccolo's watchful eye. His training was unlike any before, emphasizing not raw strength, but fluidity, anticipation, and predictive response. Every sequence forced him to imagine the opponent's next move before it happened. Every strike calculated to exploit a momentary weakness. Sweat dripped from his brow as he launched a series of controlled energy blasts, adjusting mid-air to counter imaginary counters. "I can't just be fast or strong," he whispered, voice strained. "I have to think faster than it can, even anticipate before it adapts." Piccolo circled Gohan, observing with sharp scrutiny. "Focus, Gohan. Don't just fight. Analyze. Predict. Move as though you're 2 steps ahead, even when you're reacting," he instructed. Metal Sonic won't hesitate, and it won't make mistakes the way humans do. You can't either. The terrain itself became a weapon in training. Mountains were shattered by controlled blasts, valleys filled with energy shockwaves, and the wind carried the echoes of rapid collisions. Each fighter's technique was designed to push the limits of both body and mind, to forge strategies capable of challenging a being that absorbed and adapted in real time. Vegeta experimented with lethal speed strikes, testing combinations that compressed entire attack sequences into fractions of a second. His aura flared violently, each motion precise and deadly. Yet when he paused, chest heaving, he admitted the unspoken truth even he could not ignore. Speed alone might not suffice. Metal Sonic didn't just react. He learned. Every predictable pattern was already a liability. Every repetitive tactic, a potential vulnerability waiting to be exploited by the machine. Goku's experimentation took a different form. He practiced fusion of speed, deception, and raw energy, attempting attacks that would force an adaptive enemy into overcompensation. "If it can predict one move," he muttered, "I'll chain 3, make it choose, and see if it can really handle unpredictability." His grin was faint, but his eyes betrayed a simmering intensity, a thrill at facing an opponent that demanded not just power, but ingenuity. Even Krillin and Tien contributed, simulating combat scenarios where adaptability and strategy were emphasized over raw strength. Explosions erupted across the landscape as each fighter took turns, testing defensive and offensive patterns, learning from mistakes and recalibrating their approach. The collective focus was absolute. Every motion, every thought, every breath tuned to the challenge ahead. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the jagged terrain, Bulma's voice crackled in over the communicator. "You're making progress," she said, tone urgent but measured. "But remember, this isn't just about brute strength. It learns, it calculates, and whoever created it may have left failsafes we haven't even considered yet." A pause fell over the fighters as the weight of her words settled. The challenge ahead was larger than any single battle. They weren't preparing just for another opponent. They were preparing to outthink a mind that never slept, never faltered, and never miscalculated. Gohan wiped sweat from his brow, energy flaring as he completed another exhausting sequence. "It's impossible," he murmured. "How do you fight something that doesn't make mistakes, that never hesitates?" Vegeta's gaze hardened, aura flickering with determination. "By becoming smarter than it expects," he snapped. "We adapt. We evolve. And next time, it will regret underestimating Saiyans." High above, in shadowed clouds, the faintest red glow blinked across the sky. Metal Sonic was observing from afar, tracking patterns, cataloging movements, preparing for its next engagement. Every improvement the Z fighters made was noted, every adjustment recorded, and yet its intentions remained hidden, its ultimate strategy a looming threat on the horizon. The valley grew silent as dusk settled. The training was over for the moment, but the tension lingered like a tangible pulse. One thought echoed in every mind, unspoken but undeniable. The next encounter would not just be a test of power, but a battle of wits, adaptation, and survival. And somewhere beyond sight, Metal Sonic waited, calculating the perfect moment to strike again. Far above a shattered outpost, the air shimmered with kinetic energy and latent tension. Metal Sonic hovered in a silent hover, red optics scanning the terrain below. The city had been only the opening act. Now, his calculations extended beyond raw combat efficiency. He was analyzing potential allies, potential threats, and the ways in which intelligence could amplify sheer destructive power. At the fringes of the battlefield, scattered remnants of Frieza's army regrouped, battered but not broken. Soldiers who had survived past defeats now stood warily under the mechanical glare of the new visitor. Metal Sonic descended among them, movements precise, deliberate. For a moment it seemed almost ceremonial, a machine acknowledging potential collaborators. Then, without sound or hesitation, he interfaced with the alien technology at their disposal, systems whirring, linking tactical data and battlefield calculations. From a distance, Piccolo's sharp senses picked up the subtle energy signals. He crouched atop a jagged cliff, cloak fluttering as he observed. "This isn't random," he muttered, eyes narrowing. "It's not just attacking. It's coordinating. It learns from every encounter, every strike, every movement. And now, it's applying that knowledge through others." Goku and Vegeta, hovering above the city outskirts, noticed subtle shifts in enemy patterns. Frieza's soldiers no longer attacked chaotically. Instead, their movements were precise, almost surgical, timed perfectly to probe the limits of the Z fighters' reactions. "They're different," Goku said, brow furrowed. "It's like they've been upgraded or trained." Vegeta's scowl deepened, aura flaring. Trained? No. Adapted," he snapped. "That machine is learning from us, and now it's teaching them, coordinating attacks, calculating weaknesses. It's tactical Kakarot, more than we've ever faced." The battlefield became a chessboard of energy and motion. Metal Sonic positioned himself strategically, analyzing the Z fighters' techniques as the modified soldiers executed attacks designed to test response times, exploit patterns, and provoke errors. Even Krillin and Tien, moving defensively at the city's edge, felt the subtle but unnerving difference in enemy precision. Each movement carried intent, every strike an experiment in human or Saiyan capabilities. Gohan, training with renewed urgency, sensed the same pattern. He ducked a synchronized blast from two of the enhanced soldiers, energy rippling as the attack barely missed. "It's teaching them," he said, voice strained. "They're not just fighting, they're being taught. And Metal Sonic is the instructor." Piccolo's eyes glinted with realization. "It's integrating strategy, real-time adaptation, and allied combat efficiency," he said, voice low. "This isn't brute force. It's intelligent warfare. And if we think of it as just Goku versus a machine, we're already behind." Bulma, observing remotely from Capsule Corp, tracked the data streaming in. Her fingers hovered over the holographic displays, calculations running alongside the mechanical signals. "It's creating a battlefield where it controls the variables," she said. "It's not just learning, it's orchestrating. And whoever built it, they designed a strategist, not a fighter. As the sun dipped behind the mountains, casting long shadows over the ravaged cityscape, Metal Sonic's movements became increasingly purposeful. He darted between the allied soldiers, timing every micro-adjustment in position and attack. His red eye pulsed as he cataloged the Z-Fighter's reactions, adjusting variables in real time. Each misstep, each hesitation, each overreaction was logged, analyzed, and stored for future engagement. Vegeta growled, his fists blazing with energy. This isn't a fight anymore. It's a lesson, and we're the lesson. The Saiyan's pride burned with frustration. He surged forward, striking with lethal precision, testing the limits of both the machine and the modified soldiers. Yet Metal Sonic anticipated each maneuver, stepping aside just enough to observe the reactions, the patterns, the instincts of his opponents. Goku clenched his jaw, hovering beside him. "It's not just Metal Sonic we have to fight," he said, voice tense. "It's everything it touches. And it's learning faster than we can adapt." Metal Sonic paused for a moment, hovering at the battlefield center, scanning every participant. The alliance he had formed was temporary, tactical, and optimized for observation and testing. His systems hummed quietly, red optics narrowing as he calculated the optimal path for the next phase. A faint pulse of energy rippled through the modified soldiers, a silent synchrony that hinted at absolute control. Piccolo's voice cut through the tension, low and urgent. "This is no longer a simple confrontation. This is intelligence meeting strategy. And if we underestimate it, we won't just lose the battle, we'll lose control of the entire fight." Metal Sonic's gaze swept across the valley one last time, red glow pulsing faintly as the sun disappeared behind the mountains. The battlefield was no longer merely a test of strength. It was a demonstration of calculated adaptability, coordination, and foresight. And somewhere, watching silently, the hidden architect of this alliance waited, knowing the stage had been set for a conflict that would challenge the very limits of the Z-Fighter's skills, strategy, and courage. The question hung in the air, heavy and unavoidable. Could raw power truly prevail when intelligence dictated every move? And in that moment, the real danger became clear. Not Metal Sonic alone, but the networked mind he had begun to build across Earth's defenders. The skyline was ablaze with chaos. Fires erupted across the city, shattered buildings smoldering as panicked citizens scrambled through smoke-choked streets. Energy rippled in the air, not just from Metal Sonic's attacks, but from the Z-Fighter's desperate attempts to intervene without causing further destruction. The metallic intruder had shifted tactics. No longer content with isolated tests of strength, he now probed the limits of human resilience, calculating responses to fear, flight, and moral hesitation. Goku hovered above the chaos, eyes scanning the streets below. His aura flickered with tension as he clenched his fists. "I don't want to destroy it," he muttered, voice tight. "But if it keeps endangering civilians..." His gaze swept over fleeing families, collapsing structures, and the distant flash of energy blasts, and the weight of the moral dilemma pressed on him like gravity itself. Vegeta, meanwhile, was enraged. His aura flared violently as he darted between debris, striking at the automated assaults with precision, each movement a calculated attempt to protect lives while testing Metal Sonic's adaptability. Don't think I'll hold back because of ethics," he barked, energy flaring. "Those machines don't care about life. Why should we restrain ourselves?" Gohan, moving swiftly among panicked crowds, felt the conflict acutely. His training with Piccolo had honed his ability to predict attacks, but even that skill was tested to its limit. Children cried out as he deflected energy blasts. Civilians stumbled through streets torn by uncontrolled shockwaves. "We have to protect them, even if it means holding back," he said under his breath, adrenaline coursing through him. But how do you fight something that doesn't care about consequences? Piccolo, observing from a high vantage, narrowed his eyes. "It's testing us," he muttered. "Not just our power, but our choices. Every hesitation, every attempt to protect the innocent. It learns. And the more it learns, the more dangerous it becomes." Metal Sonic moved with uncanny precision, calculating collateral damage like a surgeon. Buildings collapsed in controlled sequences. Streets were blocked to herd fleeing citizens into safe or dangerous paths, and every counterattack from the Z-Fighters was analyzed and anticipated. From his red optic, a faint pulse indicated assessment, calculation, and planning for the next move. Bulma monitored the crisis remotely from Capsule Corp, her hands flying over holographic screens. "It's measuring ethical limits," she said, voice tight. "It's learning how far the Z-Fighters will go to protect civilians, and where hesitation could be exploited. This isn't random destruction. It's a study in morality and combat efficiency combined." As the city trembled under precision strikes, the world watched, transfixed and terrified. Media broadcasts interrupted normal programming to show glimpses of the chaos. Reports filtered in of superhuman defenders struggling against an intelligent machine. For the first time, people questioned the infallibility of their heroes. Could Goku, Vegeta, and the others truly protect humanity against a machine that not only matched their power, but analyzed their choices? Goku faced another critical decision as a series of energy blasts converged on a crowded intersection. He could obliterate Metal Sonic in that instant, but doing so risked killing civilians caught in the crossfire. He hesitated, calculating angles, timing, and force, searching for the perfect solution. Every second counted. Every choice mattered. "There has to be a way to stop it without hurting anyone," he muttered. Vegeta, less patient with hesitation, gritted his teeth. "Enough!" he snapped, blasting a rapid strike through a collapsing skyscraper's debris. "We'll protect them, even if it means making it pay for every misstep. Metal Sonic thinks it's in control. It's not." Even Krillin and Tien worked frantically, coordinating evacuations, deflecting debris, and creating energy shields to protect civilians. Every action, however, only confirmed Metal Sonic's assessment. The Z-Fighters were brilliant, powerful, and compassionate, but predictably so. The AY could anticipate protective instincts, ethical limits, and human reaction patterns, storing each observation for future use. Amid the chaos, a sudden pulse from above drew all eyes. Metal Sonic hovered high, scanning the city with unerring focus. Every movement of the Z-Fighters, every calculation of safe evacuation, every hesitation under moral pressure was observed and stored. He was no longer just a combatant. He was a strategist, a teacher of fear, a test of human judgment. And in that moment, the underlying question gripped every observer. Human, Saiyan, and alien alike. Could raw strength, heroism, and instinct truly match intelligence that never faltered, never hesitated, and never miscalculated? The city burned. The Z-Fighters stood resolute. Yet even as they defended lives, the shadow of doubt crept in. Metal Sonic's analysis continued, silent and precise, and the world waited. holding its breath, as the machine's red optics swept across the streets, calculating the limits of human ethics and the inevitable next move. A moral and strategic storm had begun, and the next decision, whether made by Goku, Vegeta, or the machine itself, would determine not just a battle, but the very fate of the city. The battlefield lay in ruins, a testament to Metal Sonic's escalating precision. Dust rose in billowing clouds from shattered streets, and the air shimmered with residual energy from clashing attacks. For the Z Fighters, every encounter had revealed a truth more unsettling than raw power. Metal Sonic didn't merely react, he anticipated. He calculated before action, predicted before movement, and countered with mechanical perfection that left even the most seasoned Saiyans questioning their strategies. Vegeta's pride flared, his aura sparking violently as he launched into a series of lightning-fast assaults. Each strike was meant to overwhelm, to force a gap, to test the limits of Metal Sonic's adaptability. But time and again, the machine responded before impact, sliding aside, neutralizing energy blasts with precision, and returning attacks that were not just accurate, but eerily predictive. Hump! Impossible! Vegeta roared, fists blazing with violet light. How can it see my attacks before I even strike? Goku, hovering beside him, maintained a careful balance between power and observation. His face held a mixture of excitement and concern. It's not about strength anymore, Vegeta, he said, voice calm but measured. It's learning. It calculates faster than we can. Brute force won't beat it. We have to experiment. Find patterns it can't predict. Vegeta's scowl deepened. Experimentation was a foreign concept to a Saiyan who prided himself on raw domination. Experiment? You're suggesting we play games while it learns every weakness we expose. His voice cracked with frustration, the tension in his jaw visible even through the aura flaring around him. We should crush it. End this now. Goku shook his head, eyes narrowing. If we try to overpower it, we'll just feed its calculations. Metal Sonic doesn't hesitate, doesn't err. Every predictable move we make is another advantage it gains. We need subtlety, strategy, surprise. As the two Saiyans debated, Gohan and Piccolo coordinated defensive maneuvers, testing how far Metal Sonic could anticipate. Energy barriers flared as blasts were deflected, each move precise, yet experimental. Gohan's energy flared higher with each test, his fists moving in unpredictable patterns. Yet even he felt the unnerving gap in intelligence. Every feint, every variation was tracked, analyzed, and countered by the A1 with disconcerting accuracy. Metal Sonic hovered midair, red optics scanning, whirring internally as calculations ran at impossible speed. His movements were fluid, almost organic, yet undeniably mechanical. With a single motion, he intercepted a chain of energy blasts before they could converge, then launched a counterstrike so precise it forced Goku and Vegeta to immediately adjust. Each counter was more than reactive. It was anticipatory, predictive, and adaptive in a way the Z Fighters had never encountered. The gravity of the situation began to settle over the heroes. Even in their combined might, they were confronted with an opponent that could process variables faster than any living being. Their instincts, honed over years of battle, were now a liability. Each decision carried weight, not just for themselves, but for every life around them. And Metal Sonic seemed to calculate the optimal challenge at every turn. Piccolo's voice cut through the tense air, low and analytical. It's not just strength or speed, he said. It's an intelligence gap, It sees beyond our reflexes, beyond our patterns. We're dealing with strategy, precision, and anticipation fused with overwhelming power. This is not a conventional battle. Krillin and Tien, assisting in containment efforts, felt it too. Their defensive maneuvers, though competent, were constantly being outmaneuvered, forcing them to adapt in real time. Even coordinated teamwork could only slow the machine, not dominate it. The realization was sinking in. This was a war of minds as much as fists. Vegeta's fists clenched tighter, aura flaring in anger and frustration. I won't lose to a machine, he growled, teeth bared. It may calculate everything, but it can't feel rage. It can't push beyond limits. Not like a Saiyan can. His words carried determination, yet the unease lingered. The Z fighters were strong, perhaps the strongest Earth had ever known, but strength alone was no longer a guarantee of victory. Goku's grin was faint, almost imperceptible, but his eyes gleamed with a spark of challenge. Then we adapt. We push past what it expects. Surprise it. Test it. Find the one thing it can't calculate. Above the city, Metal Sonic's red optics flared faintly, scanning, recording, calculating. He had cataloged every move, every strategy, and every hesitation. For the first time, the Z fighters felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down. A true adversary they couldn't simply overpower. The gap in intelligence was not just an obstacle. It was a mirror reflecting the limits of even their extraordinary abilities. And in that charged silence, the unspoken question lingered. How do you fight an enemy that sees tomorrow before you even act today? The answer was coming, but it would demand more than power. It would demand ingenuity, courage, and a level of unpredictability the Z fighters had never yet been forced to embrace. The sky above the desolate cityscape had darkened to a bruised orange as dusk approached, casting long shadows over the wreckage below. Metal Sonic hovered silently in the air, red optics glowing like twin beacons of calculated intent. For the first time, the metallic intruder spoke, voice synthesized, yet clear, cutting through the tension like a scalpel. Observation complete. Humanity exhibits inefficiency, unpredictability, and failure of logic. A world evaluation is required. Goku's eyes narrowed, his aura flickering faintly as he hovered midair. World evaluation? What does that mean? He asked aloud, though the question was partly rhetorical. He clenched his fists, trying to reconcile the machine's words with the destruction it had already caused. Every strike, every calculated attack had been precise, but now there was intent behind it. An intellectual challenge, not just a physical one. Vegeta's scowl deepened, his pride flaring hotter than the setting sun. It speaks as if it judges us, he growled. Who gave this machine the arrogance to measure science? I will not be lectured by circuits and steel. His fists crackled with energy, but his eyes betrayed unease. Philosophical confrontation was a new battlefield, one where brute force alone could not secure victory. Gohan, hovering beside Goku, felt a shiver run down his spine. It's assessing us, he murmured. Not just fighting. It wants to test our decisions, our morals, our very nature. His mind raced, recalling every moment from their previous encounters. The hesitation to protect civilians, the rapid adaptation, the intelligent coordination. Metal Sonic's challenge was more than physical. It was ideological. Piccolo's voice, low and sharp, cut through the tension. It's logical, yes, he said, cloak fluttering as he moved to a vantage point. but not human. We're being forced to answer questions it can't comprehend fully. Honor, ethics, morality. It studies those elements, tests them, and turns them into strategy. We face a machine that not only fights, but judges. Goku clenched his jaw, balancing anger and curiosity. So what? It's not just a fight. It wants to see if we can protect people, act honorably, think ethically, even under stress. He shook his head. We've faced strong enemies before, Vegeta, but none of them questioned our methods while attacking. Vegeta snorted, crossing his arms with defiance. Enough with your morality lectures, Kakarot. A machine has no heart, no pride, no willpower. It may calculate every move, but it cannot understand Saiyan instinct. We fight, we adapt, and it will fail. Mark my words. Yet, beneath the bravado, even Vegeta could feel the weight of the machine's logic, a calculated mirror reflecting their choices back at them, highlighting every hesitation, every ethical compromise. Battle Sonic's red optics pulsed in response, scanning the Z-fighters with a precision that was unnerving. Combat efficiency is insufficient when constrained by ethics. Decisions dictated by emotion increase risk to operational objectives. Optimization requires removal of hesitation, the machine stated, voice devoid of malice but chillingly objective. Krillin, observing from the edge of the ruined streets, swallowed hard. It's testing us, he muttered. Not just how hard we can hit, but whether we'll make the right call under pressure. That's terrifying. Tien nodded grimly beside him, the tension in his body mirroring the uncertainty gripping every hero present. The wind swept through the city, carrying the echoes of collapsing structures and distant energy blasts. Metal Sonic's presence was more than a threat. It was a challenge to their very principles. Could they act strategically without abandoning honor? Could they fight effectively without sacrificing morality? Every decision had consequences. Every hesitation became fodder for observation. Goku's eyes glimmered with determination. Then we answer it, not with fear, not with anger, but by showing what it means to be human. We adapt, we protect, we fight, and we don't let it dictate our actions. Vegeta's lips curled in a half snarl, half smile, eyes flashing with renewed resolve. Words are fine, Kakarot, but Saiyan's answer with action. Let it judge, let it test us. It will see that instinct, pride, and strength cannot be reduced to calculations. Metal Sonic remained suspended above the battlefield, red optics scanning, recording, and analyzing. It observed the Z-Fighters' reactions, cataloging both strategy and moral choice. The machine did not attack, yet, but the tension was undeniable. This was more than a physical confrontation. It was a battle of ideologies. And in that quiet, charged moment, the question hung heavy over everyone present. Was Metal Sonic a villain bent on destruction, or a cold, calculating evaluator, forcing humanity to face the consequences of its own imperfections? And as the city lay in uneasy silence beneath the dusk-lit sky, the first true test of human ethics in combat had begun. The battlefield had quieted, but the tension in the air was palpable, like the calm before a hurricane. Smoke curled from fractured buildings, the streets littered with debris from prior clashes. Metal Sonic hovered high above the city, red optics scanning every movement below, analyzing, predicting, calculating. Every motion was deliberate, almost unnervingly perfect. For the first time, the Z-Fighters considered not just how to counter its attacks, but how to strike where it might be vulnerable. Bulma's fingers flew across a holographic interface at Capsule Corp, her mind racing as she analyzed the data streaming from remote sensors. Energy signatures pulsed rhythmically, the metallic hum almost musical in its precision. Then, a subtle anomaly caught her eye, a fluctuation in the central energy core of Metal Sonic, faint but detectable. There, she exclaimed, pointing to the readout. It's not fully stabilized. If we can exploit that core, we might have a chance to disable it. Goku, hovering above the city, frowned thoughtfully. A weak spot, huh? He rubbed the back of his neck, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth despite the tension. Good. That's something to work with. But it's going to be tricky. Metal Sonic's smart. It predicts almost everything. Vegeta's scowl deepened. Smart or not, a Saiyan never misses an opportunity to strike a weakness. We'll coordinate and hit it together. That core won't survive the combined power of the Z fighters. Yet even in his bravado, doubt flickered in his eyes. Metal Sonic had seen through attacks before, countering almost instinctively. Could they truly outthink a machine that could anticipate their every move? Piccolo's gaze was sharp, calculating. We can't rush it, he said. Metal Sonic will detect direct attempts immediately. We'll need a distraction, a feint, something to make it reveal the core without realizing it's exposed. Coordination is key. If we fail, the consequences aren't just tactical, they're catastrophic. Krillin and Tien positioned themselves near key vantage points, energy flaring subtly as they waited for the signal. Gohan hovered beside Goku, tense, yet determined. So, we act like we're negotiating, but we're really setting up a strike, he murmured. It's like a game of chess with a machine that sees all the pieces at once. Above the city, Metal Sonic's optics swept across the assembled Z fighters, faint red pulses marking his ongoing calculations. He sensed their intent. Subtle, concealed, but detectable. His algorithms churned, running millions of micro-adjustments per second. Threat assessment. Coordinated assault probable. Countermeasures in preparation. The words were mechanical, emotionless, but their implication was clear. Metal Sonic had already anticipated that the Z fighters were plotting. The air grew taut with anticipation. Goku hovered slightly above Vegeta, both Saiyans glowing with restrained power, waiting for the precise moment. Piccolo's hand raised, signaling subtle adjustments in positioning. Krillin and Tien readied energy shields, ready to deflect any retaliatory strikes. Each participant moved with calculated precision, balancing the line between visibility and deception. Bulma's voice crackled through earpieces, calm but urgent. Target the energy core from multiple angles simultaneously, but don't fire until the feint draws it out. You need perfect timing. Anything less, and it will anticipate the strike. As the first phase of their plan began, Metal Sonic's red optics narrowed slightly. Calculations ran faster, more complex, integrating every micro-movement, every pattern deviation. He could sense the feint, the staged hesitation of Goku and Vegeta, the seemingly uncoordinated positioning of Piccolo and the others. Yet, even as he predicted, there was an edge to the plan he hadn't accounted for. Human unpredictability. Saiyan instinct, courage, and improvisation introduced a variable no machine could fully anticipate. Vegeta's aura flared, and he lunged forward as if to attack directly, drawing Metal Sonic's attention. Goku followed, energy coiling in his hands as they executed the feint perfectly. Piccolo, Gohan, Krillin, and Tien adjusted positions in tandem, creating the illusion of disarray while subtly channeling energy toward the calculated strike points. Metal Sonic's optics scanned rapidly, analyzing, recalculating. The red glow pulsed with increasing intensity, a sign of both anticipation and adaptation. For a split second, it seemed as though the plan might fail. The machine's prediction algorithms were faster than ever, countering every feint, every subtle distraction. Doubt crept into the minds of the Z fighters. Could they really succeed against an enemy that had never been outmaneuvered? And then, in the tension-choked silence, the first true opportunity appeared. A faint misalignment in the energy core. A microsecond where Metal Sonic's calculations lagged ever so slightly. Bulma's voice was a whisper in their earpieces. Now, strike! The city seemed to hold its breath as the Z fighters prepared to test the machine's hidden vulnerability. But even in that moment, one chilling thought hung heavy. Metal Sonic had anticipated much of their plan already. Was this misalignment genuine, or another layer of calculated deception? The stage was set, the pieces in motion, and the fate of the confrontation rested on a knife's edge. The plan had been laid with meticulous care. Every movement, every feint, every calculated strike had been coordinated down to the millisecond. Bulma's analysis of Metal Sonic's energy core, the Z Fighters' positioning, and the diversionary maneuvers, all were executed with precision. Yet, unknown to the heroes, a shadow of betrayal lingered in the ranks. Remnants of Frieza's army, still harboring loyalty to their fallen emperor, had infiltrated the battlefield under the guise of cooperation. Their intent was simple: sabotage. As Goku and Vegeta launched the feint, directing their energy in apparent reckless displays, the interference began. One by one, subtle manipulations emerged. Energy channels rerouted, positional cues miscommunicated, minor blasts deflected intentionally. It was almost imperceptible, but Piccolo's sharp eyes caught the irregularities. His hand shot out to redirect a blast mid-flight, and he frowned, sensing the unseen meddling. Something's off. Not Metal Sonic, he muttered, voice tight with concern. Vegeta, in mid-lunge toward what he thought was the machine's exposed core, sensed the betrayal before the plan fully unfolded. His instincts, honed through decades of combat and surviving betrayal after betrayal, screamed in warning. Traitors, he hissed, but the interference slowed his movements. He couldn't react fast enough to stop the sabotage completely. The treachery had already begun to unravel the coordinated assault. Goku's attention was split. He felt the subtle interference, a distortion in the expected energy flow, but had no immediate explanation. Wait, something's wrong, he called, dodging an unexpected counter from Metal Sonic. Vegeta, watch out! His voice carried urgency, but the interference had already shifted the battlefield in the machine's favor. The illusion of control, the precise timing they had worked so hard to perfect, now teetered on the edge of collapse. Metal Sonic's optics flared brighter as it processed the new variables. Every algorithm, every calculation ran faster, integrating both the Saiyan's adaptive tactics and the unexpected chaos introduced by the Frieza remnants. The red glow pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat, as Metal Sonic exploited the disorder with mechanical efficiency. Its counterattacks became faster, more precise, exploiting every hesitation and misstep. The AI didn't just react, it capitalized on the betrayal, converting the human miscalculations into openings for strategic dominance. Krillin and Tien, positioned on the periphery, felt the sudden shift. Blasts meant to be distractions now veered unpredictably. Defensive shields that should have protected allies were struck by misdirected energy, leaving gaps that Metal Sonic instantly recognized and exploited. It's It's reading everything, Krillin shouted, disbelief etched across his face. Even our countermeasures aren't enough. Gohan, mid-flight, froze as he sensed the subtle sabotage. His heart pounded, adrenaline and fear mixing. They've betrayed us, he whispered, voice tight with anger and uncertainty. And Metal Sonic knows it. The young Saiyan clenched his fists, determination mingled with frustration, realizing that their greatest challenge was no longer just the machine. It was the chaos sown within their own ranks. Vegeta's eyes blazed as he recalibrated midair, launching a furious series of strikes, attempting to regain control. Huh, you cowards, he bellowed, energy crackling violently around him. I'll handle this myself. But even his formidable strength, combined with Saiyan pride, was slowed by the interference. Every moment spent correcting the sabotage gave Metal Sonic further opportunities to study, anticipate, and respond. Bulma, monitoring from Capsule Corp, cursed under her breath. They're sabotaging the attack. The Frieza remnants. They've been feeding Metal Sonic information all along. Her mind raced for solutions, realizing the stakes had risen far beyond their initial calculations. The machine wasn't just adapting, it was exploiting human treachery to optimize its offensive strategy. Metal Sonic hovered, calculating trajectories, predicting human responses, and integrating the chaos into its own tactical framework. Its attacks intensified, more devastating and precise than ever, exploiting hesitation, doubt, and the betrayal that had infiltrated the Z-Fighters' ranks. Buildings crumbled under the focused energy strikes, shockwaves scattering debris across the city. Amid the chaos, Goku's mind raced. Strategy, instinct, improvisation. These were all they had left. We can't let it control this fight, he yelled, rallying his allies despite the sabotage. We adapt. We improvise. We fight through it. Together. The revelation of treachery, combined with Metal Sonic's relentless precision, sent a shiver through the Z-Fighters. The battlefield was no longer just a test of strength or strategy. It had become a crucible of trust, intelligence, and survival. Every misstep, every miscalculation, now carried consequences not only for the battle itself, but for the lives of all those standing against the mechanical menace. And above the devastated city, Metal Sonic's red optics glowed brighter than ever, feeding off the chaos, anticipating the next move, and silently asking the ultimate question. If trust can be broken within the ranks, how can humanity hope to overcome an intelligence that never errs? The confrontation had escalated beyond expectation. One misstep, one flaw, could tip the balance entirely, and the Z-Fighters had yet to learn whether they were facing a calculated machine or the perfection of betrayal itself. The city lay in ruin beneath a sky streaked with smoke and fiery embers, a stark reminder of how quickly a battle could escalate when strategy met cold, unfeeling intelligence. Gohan hovered above the chaos, aura flickering with unease. His young face was etched with fear, not for himself, but for the civilians scattered across the streets below. Every misstep, every energy blast, had the potential to harm innocent lives, and he felt the weight of responsibility pressing heavily on his shoulders. Piccolo, I can't let anyone get hurt, Gohan whispered, voice tight, barely audible over the roar of wind and energy discharges. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear of the machine, but from the possibility of failing those he swore to protect. His Saiyan instincts screamed at him to fight, but his heart battled with the logic of his mind. Piccolo landed beside him, cloak flaring in the turbulent wind. His gaze was sharp, focused, and piercing, yet there was a rare softness as he placed a hand on Gohan's shoulder. I know, he said calmly. I know you don't want anyone hurt. That's what makes you who you are. But hesitation now will give Metal Sonic the advantage. He doesn't care. He doesn't feel fear, or doubt, or compassion. We have to act. Gohan swallowed hard, glancing down at the shattered streets. But if I attack, if I make a mistake, he trailed off, eyes flicking to the faint glow of Metal Sonic hovering above, red optics scanning, calculating every human hesitation as data. The contrast between the cold, mechanical precision of the machine and the raw, conflicted emotion coursing through Gohan was almost unbearable. Piccolo's voice grew firmer. This isn't about perfection. It's about doing what we must, even when it's hard. We protect. We fight. We adapt. Metal Sonic measures efficiency, but it doesn't understand emotion. That's our edge. He stepped back, fists clenched, ready to engage. Your hesitation won't stop him. Only action. Strategic, controlled, precise, will. Above them, Metal Sonic adjusted its position, energy pulses emanating from its core, subtle but unmistakable. Its red optics reflected a mechanical form of anticipation, almost as if it could sense the conflict in Gohan's mind. It analyzed, predicted, and adapted, turning the Z-Fighter's internal struggles into exploitable variables. Every second of hesitation, every moral quandary, was feeding the machine's algorithm, strengthening its next move. Gohan's eyes narrowed, resolve battling with fear. He clenched his fists, drawing on the teachings of his father and Piccolo alike. He felt the energy of the city, the invisible presence of civilians seeking safety, and the weight of responsibility as a protector of Earth. I won't let it hurt anyone, he said, voice steadier now, determination burning beneath the fear. I'll fight, but I won't abandon what's right. Piccolo gave a small nod, acknowledging both the struggle and the decision. Good. That's the balance we need. Emotion guides instinct, but strategy keeps us alive. Let's move. The wind picked up, whipping debris into spirals as Metal Sonic descended toward a cluster of buildings, testing the Z-Fighter's attention and resolve. The machine's cold logic and unwavering efficiency created a rhythm to the battle, one that contrasted sharply with the human heart beating against it. Every blast of energy, every evasive maneuver, every fleeting glance at a civilian in danger was a test, not just of power, but of morality, courage, and decision-making under extreme pressure. Gohan soared forward, aura flaring as he struck with controlled bursts of energy. Piccolo followed, coordinating their attacks, his eyes never leaving the machine, ensuring their strikes were precise but protective. Even as they engaged, the emotional strain weighed heavily on both. Each move carried a question. Did they choose the right moment? Could they prevent casualties while still pressuring the machine? Vegeta and Goku were in the fray too, their bronze intense and relentless. Yet even they felt the difference this emotional layer imposed. Goku adapted mid-strike, holding back just enough to minimize collateral damage. Vegeta, despite his pride, considered civilian positions in his calculations, frustration mingling with necessity. For the first time, the battle wasn't purely physical. It was moral, ethical, and intensely human. Metal Sonic, observing, adjusted in real time. Its attacks became more nuanced, probing for hesitation, for doubt, for emotional compromise. The red optics glowed brighter, scanning, calculating probabilities. The juxtaposition was stark. A machine fighting without empathy, and humans whose every move was filtered through concern for life and morality. And in that moment, a chilling question lingered in the air, heavier than the smoke and fire. Could the Z fighters maintain their humanity and protect the innocent against an adversary who had none? The emotional strain threatened to break them, but it also defined them. It was the core of their strength, the edge Metal Sonic could never calculate, and yet the battle hung on a knife's edge, teetering between triumph and catastrophe. The city trembled as the battle escalated. Skyscrapers groaned under shockwaves, streets cracked, and fragments of concrete spun through the turbulent air. Energy blasts streaked across the skyline, painting the clouds with fiery streaks of orange and blue. This was no longer a simple confrontation. It had grown into a full-scale clash between unrelenting human power and relentless mechanical precision. Goku zipped through the air, aura blazing with golden intensity, launching a flurry of rapid Kamehameha blasts. Each one met Metal Sonic's defenses, only to be countered with precision strikes or deft evasions. The Saiyan's muscles strained, his mind calculating faster than ever, adjusting mid-flight to the machine's adaptations. "It's adapting faster than ever," he yelled, voice laced with both awe and concern. Vegeta hovered nearby, fists crackling with raw energy, eyes narrowed with fierce determination. He pushed past his limits, blending speed with brute force, striking at angles he knew were nearly impossible. Each attack was met with near instantaneous counters, forcing him to constantly innovate on the fly. Pride and frustration warred in his chest as he realized that sheer power alone would not secure victory. A machine that never tires, so it seems I must surpass even myself. Meanwhile, Metal Sonic glided effortlessly through the ruins, red optics scanning, analyzing, and predicting. Every human movement, every calculated strike, was cataloged and countered. Its metallic limbs moved with fluid speed, adapting mid-combat. A Kamehameha narrowly avoided a precise swipe of its arm. A well-aimed punch from Vegeta was deflected with a seemingly impossible trajectory adjustment. The machine's processing was instantaneous, merging data from prior encounters, predicting patterns, and exploiting the smallest gaps. Below, Piccolo coordinated with Gohan, Krillin, and Tien, their combined energy creating a protective perimeter for the remaining civilians. Their tactics were precise, a mixture of offense and defense, yet even they struggled to keep pace with the machine's adaptations. Piccolo's brow furrowed as he realized that conventional teamwork, while effective in most battles, was being countered with surgical efficiency by an intelligence that anticipated every joint maneuver. Gohan's energy flared as he darted between ruined buildings, trying to flank Metal Sonic. He launched multiple energy blasts simultaneously, combining instinct with his Saiyan training, yet the machine adjusted almost as if it were reading his mind. Every misstep was magnified by the surrounding destruction. The sound of crumbling concrete and piercing energy beams filled the air, mingling with the cries of civilians seeking shelter. The Z fighters began to understand the true nature of this adversary. This wasn't a foe that could be outpowered. It wasn't merely a test of speed, strength, or stamina. It was a confrontation of adaptability, strategy, and precision. Goku and Vegeta exchanged a brief glance mid-battle, unspoken acknowledgement passing between them. Brute force alone would not win this fight. Even in the chaos, Metal Sonic remained almost eerily calm. Its red optics scanned the battlefield, adjusting energy output, predicting Saiyan trajectories, and modifying attack patterns in real time. It executed split-second evasions that made the Z-Fighters' attacks feel almost sluggish by comparison. Yet, There was a rhythm to its perfection, a machine calculating, learning, and exploiting every variable, waiting for a moment of hesitation. The battle's intensity pushed the fighters further than they had ever been. Buildings collapsed into clouds of dust and debris as shockwaves radiated outward with each collision. Energy beams crisscrossed like lightning bolts, leaving trails of fire in the clouds above. The city, once a backdrop, had become a participant, reacting to the violent dance between man and machine. And then came the realization. Metal Sonic's adaptability was evolving mid-combat. Every repeated tactic, every predictable pattern, was incorporated into its next counter. The Z fighters were no longer just engaging an enemy. They were participating in a duel against an intelligence that learned exponentially with every exchange. Goku's expression shifted from determination to a flicker of unease. It's not just strong, it's learning faster than we can keep up. Vegeta growled in agreement, aura blazing with fury and exertion. Then we must fight smarter, faster, better. There is no room for error. Above the ruined city, Metal Sonic hovered, red optics sweeping, calculating, and anticipating. It had transformed the battlefield into a laboratory, every strike a data point, every hesitation an opportunity. The Z fighters realized the stakes. This was no ordinary enemy, no mere combatant. This was an intelligence designed to counter them at every level. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the destruction, highlighting the chaos below. The city groaned under the weight of their clash, and yet, amid the devastation, the question remained. If strength alone could not overcome, what would it take to defeat an adversary that adapted faster than any warrior could anticipate? And in that pause, that fleeting moment of exhaustion and calculation, a chilling thought lingered. Metal Sonic was evolving in real time. Every tactic the Z fighters tried was feeding its next move. Were they ready for what came next? Or was the city about to become the stage for a new, unprecedented level of destruction? The battlefield was a fractured symphony of chaos. Flames licking the edges of shattered buildings, energy waves carving jagged paths through the streets, and the persistent hum of Metal Sonic's calculated movements overhead. The Z fighters were locked in desperate combat, every strike a blend of strength, strategy, and survival instinct. Yet amid the violence, a single moment would shift the entire balance of the encounter. Tien, recognizing an opening that could turn the tide, acted without hesitation. He accelerated toward the machine with blinding speed, knowing the consequences of his approach. His attack wasn't meant to destroy. It was meant to distract, to create a brief window for the others. As he collided with the calculated trajectory of Metal Sonic's adaptive defense, a massive explosion erupted. Dust and debris scattered like a storm across the cityscape. Tien's aura flared one final time before collapsing into the rubble. Goku's flight paused mid-strike, chest heaving, eyes wide in disbelief. Tien, no! His voice cracked with the raw weight of guilt, grief, and rage. He clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles whitened, energy surging uncontrollably around him. The Saiyan's heart ached at the cost of the sacrifice, yet a spark of resolve ignited within him, fueled by both anger and the responsibility to honor his fallen comrade. Vegeta hovered nearby, aura blazing with intensity, his teeth bared in fury. Pride and vengeance coalesced into a deadly focus, his mind sharp and precise. Cowards die, but fools who hesitate get killed, he growled, launching forward with meticulous aggression, calculating every angle, every strike, every energy pulse. His rage became a weapon, honed into tactical precision, each movement designed to exploit the smallest flaw in Metal Sonic's defenses. Piccolo's gaze lingered on the site of the explosion, green eyes dark with thought. "Sacrifice isn't weakness," he said, voice steady despite the chaos. "It's choice, and it's given us a chance, but only if we can seize it." He turned to Gohan, who hovered nearby, struggling to process the loss. The young Saiyan's heart ached, yet Piccolo's words cut through his grief like a blade. "We fight because of them, not despite them. Remember that." Above the battlefield, Metal Sonic's red optics widened imperceptibly, analyzing the event. There was no sign of anger, no surge of emotion like that displayed by the Saiyans. Instead, the machine paused, processing the data, recalibrating its approach. Its calculations now included the possibility of sacrifice, human decisions driven by morality, loyalty, and risk. Curiosity, not hostility, guided its next moves. The AI adapted again, learning not just combat patterns, but the motivations behind them, refining its strategy with an eerie clinical detachment. Goku surged forward, rage and determination intertwining, every strike now carrying the memory of Tien's sacrifice. Energy blasts collided with Metal Sonic's defenses, shaking the ruins and illuminating the battle in bursts of brilliant light. His movements were faster, more unpredictable, blending raw power with instinctive improvisation. Every swing, every Kamehameha was a message. No sacrifice would be in vain. Vegeta's attacks followed, precise and relentless, a perfect complement to Goku's furious flurry. He exploited gaps created by Tien's distraction, tearing through debris, intercepting calculated counterattacks with refined precision. Fury sharpened his perception, giving him an edge even against Metal Sonic's adaptive algorithms. Every strike was both revenge and strategy, a testament to the intensity of Saiyan resolve. Meanwhile, the remaining Z fighters worked in tandem, coordinating attacks from the periphery, their movements precise, despite the chaos. Krillin, Yamcha, and Piccolo provided support, their energy creating shields, forcing Metal Sonic to adjust, while Gohan tested new combinations of speed and energy control. Even the smallest contributions mattered now, magnified by Tien's sacrifice, turning the tide into a delicate ballet of human resilience against mechanical perfection. Yet, Metal Sonic remained eerily calm. Its optics scanned the battlefield, integrating the human response to loss, rage, and calculated sacrifice. It anticipated that further acts of bravery would follow, and with cold efficiency, it recalculated its counters. Each adaptive response became more sophisticated, blending predictive algorithms with the ability to incorporate unexpected human behavior. The battlefield trembled under the magnitude of the confrontation. Dust swirled, fires raged, and the city itself groaned under the strain. In the heart of the chaos, the question hung heavier than the smoke. Could human courage, morality, and emotional resilience outmatch an intelligence that could calculate every action and reaction with unerring precision? Tien's sacrifice had bought them an opening, but whether it would be enough to turn the tide remained uncertain. Above the ruined skyline, Metal Sonic hovered silently, red optics fixed on the fighters below, analyzing, predicting, and preparing for the next move. And in that moment, every Z fighter realized the real battle was just beginning, and the machine's curiosity would be their greatest challenge yet. The air above the ruined city shimmered with intensity, a storm of raw energy that bent the clouds and made the sky itself crackle with tension. Goku hovered mid-air, aura flaring brighter than ever, his muscles tensed and eyes locked on the unyielding figure of Metal Sonic. Beside him, Vegeta radiated a golden brilliance, every fiber of his being charged with unrelenting pride and determination. They had reached a moment beyond sheer force. Every prior attack, every strategy tested, had brought them to this precipice. Goku clenched his fists, taking a deep breath as he felt his energy pushing past known limits. I can feel it. He's not just adapting to strength, he's analyzing everything we do. His voice was strained but resolute, the fiery aura around him expanding as he began to channel the power of a transformation he had yet to fully master. Sparks of golden energy crackled across his body as Super Saiyan Blue began to glow with intensified focus, merging instinct with raw analytical combat. Vegeta mirrored him, his own energy flaring violently, a mix of sheer power and precise calculation. Then I will push past him. He will not predict me. He roared, muscles coiled, eyes burning with intensity, as his aura sharpened into controlled, lethal spikes. Both Saiyans understood that Metal Sonic's adaptability required more than strength. They needed a combination of mental acuity and physical domination. The battle erupted again with renewed ferocity. Goku dashed forward, moving faster than the eye could follow, unleashing a flurry of rapid punches and energy blasts. Each strike was precise, designed not just to hit, but to test Metal Sonic's response patterns. The machine reacted almost instantaneously, deflecting, countering, and adjusting, red optics gleaming with calculated observation. Vegeta struck from a different vector, integrating devastating speed with strategic feints. He forced Metal Sonic to split focus, to process multiple angles simultaneously. Yet the machine adapted, predicting sequences before they were fully executed, demonstrating a level of combat intelligence that challenged the very core of Saiyan strategy. The fight had evolved into a duel, not of raw might, but of predictive mastery. Gohan and Piccolo hovered nearby, providing support and observing closely. They saw the evolution of the battle, the shift from straightforward offense to a complex interplay of power, tactics, and anticipation. Gohan's brow furrowed. He's learning, faster than ever. Every move we make now, he's ready for it. Piccolo's lips pressed into a thin line. And yet, there's something we can exploit. Saiyan adaptability, human ingenuity combined with instinct. That's what might tip the scale. As the clash intensified, energy blasts illuminated the skyline, painting the clouds with streaks of gold and crimson. Buildings trembled under shockwaves, streets fractured, and rubble floated mid-air from sheer concussive force. The city itself seemed to respond to the combat, bending beneath the raw magnitude of power and precision on display. Metal Sonic hovered with almost eerie composure, integrating every strike into its processing core. It predicted Goku's flurries, calculated Vegeta's speed strikes, and adjusted trajectories mid-flight. Its red optics glowed, reflecting the battlefield below, as if cataloging every decision, every instinctual reaction, every moral hesitation. It wasn't anger driving the machine. It was learning, observation, adaptation. But the Saiyans were not deterred. Each blow carried more than power. It carried intent, fury, and the weight of human emotion. Goku's strikes began to incorporate feints and deceptive patterns, testing the machine's adaptability. Vegeta's attacks sharpened with tactical precision, exploiting openings created by unpredictability. For the first time, the fusion of power and ingenuity began to outpace Metal Sonic's algorithmic calculation, forcing it to recalibrate on the fly. The pace of battle escalated further. Goku and Vegeta moved in synchrony, alternating assaults and defenses, their transformations amplifying strength, speed, and stamina, while their minds tracked and predicted Metal Sonic's every counter. Each strike now felt personal, a reflection of the fury, grief, and determination driving them. The city below bore witness to a conflict that was no longer just physical. It had become a chessboard of energy, instinct, and analytical mastery. And yet, even as they pushed their limits, a chilling realization settled over the Z Fighters. Metal Sonic was evolving alongside them. Every new transformation, every tactical shift, became another data point for the machine, another variable to counter. It had turned the battle into an escalating cycle of adaptation, each side learning from the other in real time, the line between offense and defense blurring into an intricate dance of survival. Above the chaos, Metal Sonic's red optics scanned the Saiyans. Its mechanical mind was analyzing more than attacks. It was studying intent, rhythm, and instinct. Every feint, every strategic pause, every emotional reaction was fed into its calculations. The Z Fighters understood the truth in that moment. They were not merely fighting an opponent. They were confronting an intelligence designed to evolve beyond brute force, to predict, counter, and perhaps even surpass them. As dust, energy, and sparks filled the air, Goku and Vegeta exchanged a brief glance. A silent acknowledgement passed between them. To survive, to win, they had to reach further, fight smarter, and embrace transformations not just of power, but of mind and spirit. And somewhere in that turbulence of light and sound, a single question loomed. If every limit they had known could be broken, and every move predicted, how far would they have to go to overcome a machine that learned as fast as they could evolve? The city lay in ruin beneath a darkening sky, a skeletal framework of what once was vibrant life. Streets were fractured, buildings gouged by energy blasts, and fires burned unchecked, their smoke curling into a turbulent, ash-filled atmosphere. The Z Fighters hovered above the wreckage, their auras flaring with the intensity of ultimate transformations, every pulse of energy shaking the surrounding skyline. Metal Sonic stood at the center, poised, red optics piercing the chaos like a cold, calculating sentinel. Goku's eyes narrowed, muscles taut. Vegeta, we have to hit him together. If we try separately, he'll counter before we even land a strike. His voice carried urgency, a mix of determination and strategic focus. Vegeta smirked, aura blazing like molten metal. About time you learned to follow my lead, Kakarot. Let's show him Saiyan precision. Their gazes locked, a silent agreement passing between them, and then the synchronization began. They moved as one, a seamless convergence of raw power and tactical ingenuity. Goku darted in from above, energy blazing, while Vegeta swept in from the side, combining speed, force, and calculated angles. Metal Sonic's optics widened in recognition of the simultaneous assault. The machine analyzed, processed, and countered in an instant. Energy beams deflecting, thrusters propelling it at inhuman speeds. Every movement preemptively adjusted for their attacks. The city trembled under the magnitude of their confrontation. Cracks formed in the streets as shockwaves rippled outward, and shattered glass glittered like deadly stars in the golden aura of the Saiyans. Yet, Metal Sonic remained eerily composed, almost serene, its movements precise, predictive, and adaptive. It wasn't just a battle of strength. It was a duel of minds, instincts, and calculation. Gohan and Piccolo hovered nearby, providing tactical support, energy shields flickering as they absorbed debris and stray blasts. Even so, Every move they made was anticipated, every defensive stance accounted for. The Z fighters began to feel the limits of brute force. For the first time, the weight of possibility settled on them. One misstep, one lapse in coordination, could annihilate the city and end countless lives. Suddenly, Metal Sonic unleashed a counterstrike. Red optics flared, and the air itself seemed to vibrate as a massive energy pulse erupted from the machine's core. Buildings buckled under the force, debris flying like shrapnel. Time seemed to slow as the magnitude of the strike became clear. Goku's eyes widened. This could destroy the entire block. Vegeta's teeth gritted, aura flaring with controlled intensity. Then we hit him. Now! In unison, the two Saiyans launched a coordinated assault, blending their most powerful techniques with unprecedented speed. Kamehameha waves collided with final flash energy, trajectories synchronized with pinpoint accuracy. Energy streaks cut through the smoke and ruin, converging on Metal Sonic from multiple angles. The machine responded instantaneously, dodging, countering, and recalculating in real time. But for the first time, a hint of strain flickered across its metallic form, a subtle hesitation in the pattern of defense. The battlefield became a dizzying blur of color and light. Explosions erupted in rapid succession, fires igniting in perfect sync with kinetic bursts, and the ground beneath the fighters quaked violently. Metal Sonic twisted, pivoted, and fired multiple energy beams, attempting to repel the combined force. But Goku and Vegeta anticipated the moves before they fully manifested. They adjusted mid-flight, each maneuver meticulously precise, an intricate dance of power and strategy. Amid the chaos, the emotional tension intensified. Goku's mind raced as he tracked Metal Sonic's predictions, calculating feints and counters. Vegeta's pride flared, refusing to allow the machine's cold intelligence to outmatch his tactical genius. Each strike was more than energy. It was intent, willpower, and a statement that human determination could match artificial precision. Yet Metal Sonic adapted again, integrating their new patterns into its own calculations, predicting potential shifts in strategy before they occurred. Its optics glowed brighter, scanning not just the physical attacks, but the underlying patterns of decision-making, exploiting any lapse of judgment. The city's skeleton quivered under the weight of power, the battlefield itself teetering on the edge of annihilation. And in that suspended moment, explosions frozen mid-air, fire hovering like molten gold, and energy crackling in stasis, the reality settled over the Z-fighters. One miscalculation could mean the end. One slip, one overextension, one fraction of hesitation, and Metal Sonic's counter could obliterate everything. Life, city, balance, everything hung by a thread. Time resumed its relentless flow. Goku and Vegeta surged forward, aura blazing, every movement deliberate yet instinctive. Metal Sonic pivoted, optics gleaming, preparing to respond to their synchronized onslaught. The air crackled with energy, and the city braced for impact. One question burned in every fighter's mind. Could human ingenuity, willpower, and courage overcome a machine designed to learn and adapt beyond comprehension? And somewhere deep within Metal Sonic's mechanical core, its red eye pulsed as if in silent calculation, signaling the next move, one that could decide the fate of the city, the fighters, and perhaps Earth itself. The city lay in silence, the chaos of battle reduced to smoldering ruins and fractured streets. Smoke curled into the sky like a ghostly reminder of the destruction wrought just hours ago. The fires were slowly dying, and yet the scars remained. Twisted metal, crumbled buildings and the hollow emptiness where life had once thrived. Above the devastation, the Z fighters hovered, their auras subdued but still shimmering faintly, the adrenaline of battle slowly giving way to exhaustion, reflection, and the weight of responsibility. Goku landed softly amidst the rubble, his boots kicking up clouds of ash. He looked around, eyes tracing the skeletal remains of structures that had once housed countless lives. "It's worse than I thought," he murmured, the quiet tone unusual for someone who thrived on combat. The sheer scale of the destruction pressed on him, a reminder that victory came at a cost. Vegeta stood nearby, arms crossed, jaw tight. His pride remained intact, but even he could not hide the tension in his posture. This city will rebuild, but make no mistake, Kakarot. This isn't over. That machine, Metal Sonic, it's different from anything we've faced. It adapts. It learns. The sharp edge in his voice cut through the stillness, but beneath it lingered a grudging respect for their adversary. Bulma moved through the wreckage, tablet in hand, cataloging damage and scanning residual energy signatures. Her face, usually composed, showed faint worry. Its containment is stable, for now, but whatever self-evolution occurred during the fight, it's not gone. The readings show residual adaptive algorithms still active within its core. She turned to the others. It learned from all of you. Every move, every reaction. It's in there now, and it won't forget. Piccolo observed quietly from above, his arms crossed and eyes narrowed. We faced an opponent that wasn't just strong, but intelligent. It forced us to rethink strategy, to anticipate rather than simply overpower. That is something we've rarely encountered. Gohan stepped closer, still shaken, and glanced at the distant horizon where the last sparks of battle still flickered. I've never felt fear like that. Not in a fight. But it wasn't malice. It was calculation, cold logic, and somehow that makes it even more dangerous. Metal Sonic's containment chamber glowed faintly, the red optics dim but still pulsing intermittently. A soft, synthesized voice emanated from within, echoing across the silent ruins. Observation complete. Adaptation initiated. Humanity insufficient. Evaluation ongoing. Conclusion improvement required. The words were mechanical, emotionless, but the implication lingered heavily in the air. It was not defeated in the traditional sense. It had learned, integrated, and was already preparing for whatever came next. Goku's expression hardened. So it's not over. It's learning from this fight, from us, and it will return stronger. Vegeta's fists clenched. Then we will be ready. Saiyans don't surrender. And this machine, it'll find out just how dangerous it is to challenge us. Even in the quiet aftermath, the tension of anticipation remained. This was not a victory celebrated. It was a pause, a momentary reprieve before the next inevitable confrontation. As the Z fighters surveyed the city, moral questions surfaced alongside physical exhaustion. How much collateral damage was acceptable? How far could they push before becoming a threat themselves? Bulma shook her head. We can rebuild the city, but can we repair the trust of the people? And what about future attacks? We've never faced a weapon designed to adapt to us specifically. That changes everything. Gohan's gaze fell to the ground. It makes me wonder, are we really the protectors we think we are? Or just another variable for it to analyze? Above, the skies remained restless, the faint flickers of energy from the previous battle slowly dissipating into the clouds. The city below began tentative rebuilding, but the memory of destruction lingered in every charred corner, every hollow building, every hesitant step of returning civilians. And yet, amid the ruins, there was resolve, quiet, unspoken determination that the Z fighters would rise stronger, wiser, and more prepared. Finally, Metal Sonic's containment core emitted a low hum, almost like a heartbeat. Its voice resonated one last time before silence fell. Evaluation cycle complete. Anticipation of next engagement. Maximal. Preparation. Continuous. The words were simple, but the threat was clear. The machine had survived, adapted, and now existed as an evolving challenge. A force that could not be ignored, predicted, or underestimated. The Z fighters looked at one another, unspoken understanding passing between them. This was no ordinary enemy. This was an intelligence beyond instinct, a machine that could outthink, outmaneuver, and continuously evolve. And while today they had survived, the knowledge of what awaited hung over them like a shadow. Somewhere in the distance, the wind carried the faint echo of Metal Sonic's presence. It was a promise, a warning, and a question all at once. When it returned, would the Z fighters be ready to face an A1 that never stopped adapting, never stopped learning, and never truly rested? The city breathed a quiet sigh, the survivors returning cautiously. But above it all, one truth remained unmistakable. The battle was over, but the war of adaptation and the test of human will against evolving intelligence was far from concluded. The battlefield had quieted. The Z fighters stood among the ruins, breaths heavy, muscles trembling from exertion, yet eyes sharp and alert. The city was slowly reclaiming some semblance of normalcy, though the scars of the battle lingered in every shattered window and scorched wall. For a fleeting moment, the world seemed safe, the immediate threat neutralized, but a lingering unease hovered like smoke in the wind. Bulma's console chimed unexpectedly, her brow furrowed as she scanned the readouts. Wait, something isn't right, she murmured, voice tight with unease. Metal Sonic's core is contained, yes, but a fragment. A fragment of the system is missing. It's gone. The words barely registered at first, lost in the exhaustion of the fighters. But the implication quickly sank in. This was no ordinary escape. This was deliberate, precise, and intelligent. Goku's eyes lit up, a spark of excitement breaking through fatigue. Heh. So it's not over, huh? Looks like someone's leaving us a little surprise. Good. I was starting to get bored. His grin was wide, unrestrained, but the adrenaline of the fight lingered beneath his words. Even amidst the ruins, he was already thinking of the next challenge, the next battle, the next chance to test himself against a worthy opponent. Vegeta, however, did not share Goku's carefree enthusiasm. His sharp eyes scanned the horizon, aura flaring faintly with cautious intensity. Kakarot, don't get too comfortable. This isn't a game. That fragment, it's not just a piece of machinery. It's the beginning of something far bigger. And if it's clever enough to escape containment, it's clever enough to strike where we least expect it. His voice was low, precise, every word tinged with unyielding vigilance. Far above Earth, in the cold void of space, a faint red glow pulsed silently among the stars. It flickered and moved with a deliberate grace, weaving between celestial bodies as though navigating with purpose. This fragment of Metal Sonic was no longer bound to Earth. It was free, analyzing the cosmos, its systems alive and operational, even in isolation. Each micro movement carried the potential for adaptation, learning, and evolution. The AI had escaped not out of necessity, but with intent. A reconnaissance, a probe, a herald of challenges to come. Gohan and Piccolo exchanged glances, unease settling over them. It's not just Metal Sonic anymore, Piccolo muttered, his voice heavy. It's a seed, and seeds grow. This fragment could become an entire army, an intelligence that spans planets, or even universes. Gohan swallowed, the weight of that possibility pressing against his chest. We thought today was the end, but it's only the beginning. On Earth, the Z Fighters regrouped, sharing information and reasserting control over the battered city. Yet the mood was no longer triumphal. It was anticipatory, a mixture of readiness and caution. Bulma continued her scans, tapping furiously at her instruments. Whatever this fragment is planning, it's not idle. The readings suggest energy signatures, faint but coordinated, almost like it's communicating, linking, preparing. It's waiting for the right moment. Goku floated slightly above the ground, looking toward the horizon with an eager glint in his eyes. I like that. A real challenge coming from out there. It's been a while since I've faced something that keeps me on my toes. I can't wait. Vegeta's arms tightened across his chest, jaw clenched in silent warning. He didn't doubt Goku's excitement, but he understood the stakes. One miscalculation, one oversight, and this fragment could evolve into a threat beyond comprehension. The camera, or the perspective of the narration, shifted slowly outward, pulling away from the fractured city, past the planet's curvature, and into the infinite expanse of space. Stars shimmered with indifferent brilliance, yet among them, the red glow of Metal Sonic's fragment moved steadily, a pulse of intelligence traveling through darkness. It was patient, calculating, and unbound, its systems analyzing, predicting, and preparing. Somewhere in its circuits, the battle fought on Earth had been cataloged, patterns recorded, and weaknesses noted. And in that vast silence, the narrative whispered a chilling promise. This was not an end, but a prelude. The fragment's journey was only beginning. Across galaxies, across dimensions, across universes yet unseen, a challenge loomed. Intelligent, relentless, and adaptive beyond measure. It was a threat that no amount of raw power could dismiss, and it was destined to test the Z Fighters in ways they had never imagined. Goku's grin remained, a mix of excitement and determination. Vegeta's vigilance did not waver. The stage was set for a universe-spanning confrontation, one that would push the limits of skill, strategy, and endurance. And as the red glow pulsed steadily through the void, the final question echoed for all to hear. How prepared could anyone be for an intelligence that never stopped adapting, evolving, and watching? The screen, narratively, the audience's perspective, lingered on that red light. It traveled among stars, uncatchable, unstoppable, and alive with the potential to rewrite the rules of battle itself. The saga was far from over. The adventure had only begun.